Recording has started.
Great. Chair Schmidt, do you want to introduce the meeting?
I'm going to ask if you could do that, Ms. Lachey.
This is the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force Complaint Committee of the City and County of San Francisco. Today is April 18. The time is 5:34. This is a regular meeting, a regular Sunshine Task Force hearing, hearing room 408, City Hall, Dr. Carlton B. Goodlett Place, San Francisco, California, 94102. And there is remote meeting access as well. Watch https://bit.ly/31VMT71. The password is sunshine. Public comment, call in 415-655-0001. Meeting ID 2482-493-3430 ##. Are we ready to call item number 1, Chair Schmidt?
Yeah, let's call item number 1.
Item number 1, call to order, roll call, and agenda changes. Roll call. Member Wolf. Member Wolf, absent. Member Stein.
Present.
Member Stein present. Chair Schmidt.
Present.
Chair Schmidt present. We have a quorum. Regarding agenda changes, I have just received a request from Mayara Ruski Augusto Saw that her case, item number 8, I believe, item number 8, file number 23010, complaint filed by Carl Kramer against the PUC, Charles Pearl. She has requested that that case be heard first because she has a flight that she has to get. Do we have a conflict with that at all?
I think that's fine.
Okay.
All
right, great.
Let's move that up. It's not going to be a very lengthy one.
Okay. Okay. Let me read. All right. Okay, fine. Item 8 will be called as the first item of the hearing agenda. Are we ready to hear item number 2?
Since we're just on the preliminary number, I don't want to forget at the end, but I'm going to miss the next 2 meetings, and I was going to see if Member Stein could be the chair, and she could bring whatever rules she wants to. I'll be gone, but I'm going to be out of the country at the time of the next 2 meetings.
Oh, the next 2 complaint committee meetings?
And also
the task force meeting?
The next one. Not this coming task force meeting, but June.
You're talking June?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Just wanted to note that in our record of this committee.
So that you're missing the June meeting
of
this committee.
Let's see, the May and the June committee meetings.
Yeah, I can fill in.
Okay.
If you have any kind of template that you use, let me know. If not, I'll.
Yeah, there is one, and I can. It's somewhere. I have it somewhere. Yeah.
Okay.
I can find that for you.
All right. So it's 3 meetings that you're going to miss: the June task force meeting and the complaints committee meeting of May and June. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Do we have any other items that we need to discuss?
No.
Okay. Administrator Young, are you aware of any changes?
I'm here for tech support.
All right, thank you. All right, can we move on to item number 2?
Item number 2, please.
Item number 2, approval of the March 21, 2023 Complaint Committee meeting minutes. I have a copy of the March meeting minutes. Do we have any changes?
No changes from me.
None for me.
Just writing out. Um,
My apologies,
So-
I'm not hearing anything.
We're here.
Can I assume that you would like to go to public comment?
We haven't made a motion yet.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Administrator Young, can you open it up for public comment?
My apologies. I didn't hear a second on that.
Laura,
Am I
Member
on
Stein
here?
seconded.
Yes, please be sure to speak into the microphone. Otherwise, it's not being recorded.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. If anybody would like to make public comment, you can approach the podium at this time if you're in the room, or if you're joining us via teleconference, you can press *3 or otherwise use the application to raise your hand at this time to indicate you'd like to make public comment. I'll give everybody a few moments. I'm seeing no indications for public comment at this time.
Okay, we're going to call the vote. Member Schmidt.
Aye.
Member Schmidt, aye. Member Stein.
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Member Wolf, absent. Moved by
Member Wolf is present.
Oh, he is? Member
Wolf,
Wolf, did you
you're
hear
muted.
the,
Hello.
Member Wolf, we're voting on the minutes at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Chair Schmidt has moved to approve the minutes, and Member Stein is the second.
Very
So
good.
we were just taking the vote.
I have nothing to add.
Okay. Just a second. Okay. Item number, so we ready to call the next item?
Yes, please.
Right. Item number 8, file number 23010, complaint filed by Carl Kramer against Dennis Herrera, Charles Pearl, and the Public Utilities Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a request for public records in a timely and/or complete manner.
Just to clarify, I believe that after this, we will have general public comment. Is that right, Mr. J?
Yes,
Okay.
we will
thank
have
you.
general public comment.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we are hearing in a different order the Carl Kramer case. Let me just give you a quick description of what we're going to do here today. This is the complaint committee of the task force. And so the rules that we go by do not permit us to make any final decisions on a case. We have looked at the papers in the files that have been submitted by the petitioner, by the respondents. We may have certain questions. We will allow each side first, petitioner first, and then the respondent to tell us for up to 3 minutes about your case, your position on the case, knowing that we do already have the documents and we've looked at the files. After those statements, the members who are on the committee may have questions. And then after the questions, we will make a determination as to whether to send the case on to the task force for the full task force to hear the matter, including looking at whether the case does involve public documents, public information, public meetings, whether the task force has jurisdiction, and we may possibly make recommendations. In some cases, we make recommendations to the full task force as to what we think should be decided, but we don't always make recommendations. With that being said, do we have someone here on behalf of the respondent? Okay.
If you are present on the phone line, if you can press *3 to raise your hand, or otherwise use the application to raise your hand to indicate you are the respondent in this matter, so I can unmute your line.
On behalf of PUC, Mayara Huska-Gusa, I'm the Public Records Manager, and Laura Bush, our Budget Director, is also here if you have specific budget questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. And on behalf of the petitioner, do we have someone on the line?
Carl Kramer is here.
Okay, great. Okay, with that stated, oh, yes, when Cheryl's ready. Cheryl, but it's, yeah.
Yeah.
So when Cheryl's ready, we'll hear first from Mr. Kramer.
Mr. Kramer, you ready to begin?
Sure. And I will make it brief. So I think this gets down to the ongoing argument about whether the Public Records Act obligates a department to create a document. And when it made the initial request, December 16th, received a response December 22nd that stated that there is a longstanding practice to include CPI increases in the contracts that the department has with nonprofits and for-profit service providers. January 4th, I requested that information on the CPI increase. And January 17th, they sent a spreadsheet of payments to individuals and individual items in the organizations, but not the collective amount that's paid to each organization. And it didn't show a CPI increase. On the February 17th response to the complaint that you'll see on page 84, the department even admits that it was a record only partially responsive to the request, but to provide the information would require the CPUC to create a record. Now, this case is different than last year because last year, when they did provide information to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, they did include an internal message that they had never provided to me, but the internal message said Budget Services does not have any responsive records for this request as we don't budget specifically for these items. But this year is different in that they stated that they have that they are including CPI increases, and my request is to see what the amounts of those CPI increases are to on the contracts. Now, I think this gets in kind of a fine argument where it's like, well, if I've got the documents sitting on my desk, then I will let you see it. But, nowadays it's information that's contained in databases and they can run a query and come up with that information. But if it's not already produced into that document that's sitting on the desk, they're not going to provide it. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Cheryl, when you're ready, we can hear from the respondent side.
Are you ready to begin?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for accommodating our request to hear this item first. The first request we got from Mr. Kramer was looking for the figures for the cost of living adjustment and the cost of doing business. It even referred to a memorandum from the controller's office. And our first response was, we are not a general fund department, therefore we don't have records for cost of doing business or the cost of living adjustment. We also insisted we are not a general fund department. PUC handles things different, being an enterprise agency. We also volunteered information that we did track CPI increases. And when Mr. Kramer came back to us requesting the information on CPI increases, we provided and the request was for CPI increases figures. So we originally provided the historical rate for CPIs from 2017 to 2021 and explained that the 2022 rates were not published at that point. So we consider that request finished as the rate, though it's not managed by PUC, right? It's managed outside of the PUC, was not available. That was it. Then Mr. Kramer followed up requesting for dollar amounts of CPI increases paid to nonprofit organizations. Then at that point, we pulled up a spreadsheet that has a list. I know it's very small in the agenda packet and hard to see, but it does list all vendors by name. It also has a column for hours and quantity, and it has an invoiced amount. So if you go through that spreadsheet, you can see all of the names of the vendors, and you can identify which ones are nonprofits. So with that information, you can see the dollar amount paid to each nonprofit, which was the information being requested, the dollar amount. And I believe the hour quantity and the unit rate, if you look at all of the information for the unit rate, you see where there are changes. So you can also understand the CPI increase that happened by looking at that data. We provided the one record we had. Mr. Kramer was looking for all those figures add together. My assumption is that we're not required to create a record, and just by going through the information, you could add up, and Mr. Kramer could have learned the total amount, the total dollar amount, by just adding the amounts per nonprofit or for all nonprofits. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions, members? I'll ask Mr. Kramer, do you hear anything here today from the respondent that gives you further information on the matter?
Yes, my request was not for the dollar amount paid to nonprofits. My request was the dollar amount of the CPI increase that was provided to nonprofits. And again, I'm hearing that kind of argument that, well, you know, we would be producing records. For me to have added it up, I would have had to gone through that 3-point font with a calculator and adding up figures, because I, was not provided well, it would have been simple enough, I think, on their end to produce the information showing what was the amounts that was budgeted to each nonprofit with the amount of the CPI increase budgeted to each nonprofit, because that's what their initial response said, that they were including CPI increases in our contracts with the nonprofits. So that would indicate that there would be an amount of a CPI increase.
Are you saying that you believe there are other documents containing numbers that you believe should have been produced to you that have not been, or is your claim more that there are just numbers that you're not being given, but you're not saying that there's other supporting documentation that would contain those numbers? I think I agree with you that this is one of those cases where it's a question of, do they need to make new documents or not? But it is kind of like right on the line. So hopefully that question was somewhat clear, Mr. Kramer.
Yeah, I understand what you're asking. Yeah, I think that that there was information not provided because what that spreadsheet is showing is that so and so with this organization worked so many hours and their pay rate was this, and they were paid that. So to get what the increase is, I would also need to know what they were previously paid before the CPI increase. And then I would need to add up all the figures for each organization and try to calculate the difference.
How about the argument that at the time you made the request, the numbers you were seeking had not been finalized yet? Does that somehow resolve this?
No, as you know, the city and county is based on a fiscal year that starts July 1st. What was being provided to departments that do receive general funds, and we all agree that the PUC is an enterprise department. The departments that did receive the cost of doing business increase funds received them for the fiscal year. Now under the previous budget director, she had on more than one occasion in a meeting, she had stated sort of the policy of the mayor's budget office is that for enterprise departments, they well, maybe not requiring, but they urge them to find money in their department to provide the equivalent cost of doing business increase. So they're not provided money from the general fund, but it is sort of the policy that they do provide those increases. So yeah, we all know, the Bureau of Labor Statistics comes out with the previous CPI increase usually around mid-month. So mid-January, they would have come out with what it was in 2022. I understand what they're saying. If they're saying their practice is they wait until the end of the year then to provide CPI increases, but they still didn't provide what the amounts of those CPI increases were to the budgets of the organizations when they're saying that they put those CPI increases in contracts.
Okay, thank you. On that last point, I'll ask the respondents. Does that clarify in any way what Mr. Kramer is seeking in a way that you might be able to add to your document response on this? Either of you, although, yeah, and you've already been introduced, so.
Hi, my name's Laura Bush. I'm the Budget Director for SFPUC. So yes, I'm aware that the General Fund provides the cost of doing business increase for nonprofit contractors. The direction is to for enterprises to also provide it for their nonprofit contractors. The way PUC has done it in a long-standing way is to provide CPI increases on all of our contracts, not just nonprofits, but also our for-profit contractors, of which we have a lot. So that's what we do to reflect the increased cost of doing business for all contractors. We do an annual CPI increase on multi-year contracts. We don't have a specific line item in our budget for those CPI increases on contracts. Contract dollars in our budget are large lump sums, and they may vary from year to year for inflationary reasons as well as scope change reasons, but we don't have a specific line item in our budget for cost of doing business increases or CPI increases. Therefore, we don't have a record of that we can provide. Yeah, because that's how we do it.
Okay. All right. No, thank you. Thank you. Okay. And so is it, the respondents believe that if there were any other document that would be, I'll say any other sort of conceivable document that would be responsive to the text of Mr. Kramer's request, it would require the creation of a new document.
That's right.
Okay.
And I heard Mr. Kramer say that we could just run a database query. That's not the case. It would
Okay.
require analysis.
It would require analysis.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the best we could do. This is
Yes.
the record. This is actually a database query,
All right.
as far as I know, and contains the total amount of monies paid to nonprofit contractors. We don't have a report that could just say this was just the CPI increase for that year.
Okay. Thank you. I have, I don't have any further questions. I think I'm satisfied. Yes,
Yeah, I
Member
just
Stein.
One question, and maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree here, but do you have any other combination of documents that would make it possible for Mr. Kramer to do that analysis, to discover, what the amount of CPI? That's the only.
Yes, so we provided the rate of CPI increase, which is from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, which clearly says the percentage each year that we've assumed for CPI on our contract increases, as well as the total amount of invoices paid to our contractors.
Thank you.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
And the spreadsheet is 2017 to 2022. So Mr. Kramer's comment about how can he know when the changes occur, this is a span of 5 years. So just looking at the data, you could figure that out.
Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah. Member Wolf.
Yeah, this is for
Member
the
Wolf's online.
respondents. I'm just thinking about general accepted accounting principles, and keeping let's say a budget for each contractor on a year-to-year basis. You can, as you provided some of that in the spreadsheet, but I'm just wondering, on a per contract basis, do you provide any notices at any time of the year about how their adjustments will change, or if there was any adjustments to the CPI rate on a year-to-year basis?
I'm not aware. We did work a lot with the contracts team on this and asked them for any documents that could pertain to this. And it is my assumption that if that existed, they would have provided it then. But I don't know the answer to that question. We do in our contracts note that they'll increase by CPI each year in the kind of original contract.
But do you then notify them what the CPI adjustment will be? So they can anticipate and create managing their own budgets. I mean, that would seem.
Oh, the rate is published by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, so it's publicly available, right? Is well known. Like, we're not choosing the CPI increase.
No, I get that, but you don't provide them with a notice saying, well, this year the CPI is currently 4%. In the next coming year, you will have an increase of this much. Do you send out those kinds of notices? Do you have regular communications with the contractors like that?
I think the Contract Administration Bureau might have. We are both not aware, but it's possible. Yeah, I don't know the level of detail that notice, how detailed it is, if it is something that is provided to the contractors or not. But I can't answer for sure.
Who maintains the contract file?
The Contract Administration Bureau, right?
At the SFPUC?
Yes, it's a division within PUC.
Okay. And would they have records to show year to year what the adjustments in payments or funding to the contractor would be?
Yeah, I believe the spreadsheet that they were able to provide is the only record that existed as we were working with them. So my assumption is that that does not exist. There's no notice being issued to the contractors.
Okay, great. And if, let's say, the controller decided to do an audit and asked you for a year-to-year accounting of payments made to a contractor, including what the CPI increases were, would you be able to provide that to the auditor?
Yes, with some significant analysis, we would be able to.
Okay, and is this are these documents regular and usual as part of the file or part of your everyday office work?
No, I'm not aware of being asked to provide that kind of record to the controller's office.
So when you comes time to do budget time at every couple of years, I don't know how often you have to go.
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years. Okay, so when comes budget time, and you are, I'm not sure which department in the PUC manages that, or there's a request for information from all the departments so that they can create a budget. Do they not ask for, or do you not provide this level of information for review?
No, it's my department that manages the budget development, and that's not something that the controller's office or the mayor's budget office asks for.
So
in terms of CPI increases.
How do you then review the contract, what the contractor has been paid and what they are going to be paid, so you can plan a budget?
This happens at the department level. I believe most of these non-profit contracts are with our external affairs division, and they ask for sufficient budget for contracts for the following year. We don't look at it, and at least at my level, on a contract by contract basis, and nor does the mayor's budget office or the controller's office.
But if a department were to do that, then they may have the documents, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And could departments be contacted that are managing those contracts to get that information?
They're not. They're managed by the Construction Administration Bureau.
Yeah.
It's not like each division is managing their own contracts. I'm part of external affairs. I don't think we are, sorry, I'm a staff person within external affairs. I don't think we track the that kind of financial detail for our contracts, my assumption is that is done by the subject matter experts, which I assume would be the Contract Administration Bureau. So yeah, I don't think we have other information other than this. And this spreadsheet was provided by the Contract Administration Bureau staff. So my assumption is that this is the only thing that exists, as the people that manage the contracts searched for records and could only provide this specific record that we provided to Mr. Kramer.
So there's no way to track any of this.
I think the spreadsheet tracks that. As I said, this is 5 years worth of information with vendor name, invoiced amounts, and the billing rate. I believe all the information is here. It just requires some analysis.
Well, let me ask you, I mean, how do you then come up with the new amount once you've added the CPI adjustment? Where does that happen in the spreadsheet? And who punches the numbers in?
I'm not sure if I follow. I'm not sure what you're asking, Member Wolf.
So if you're saying that in the spreadsheet, the CPI adjustments are contained in the spreadsheet, and somebody would have to just, sit down with it and calculate it out. My question is where in the spreadsheet is the adjustment made for the CPI?
I don't think the CPI adjustment is made in the spreadsheet. I think this is a record of payments made to nonprofit contractors. The increase in the rates and the dollar amount by CPI is probably done at a contract level or by the invoices that the contractors submit and then paid out by our accounting team and then recorded as outgoing payments in this record of payments made to contractors.
So who makes the decision for the adjustment? Is it at the contract level? Is it at the division level?
It's already laid out in the original contract that it will go up by CPI. The rates will go up by CPI each year per the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and we provided those rates as part of the response.
Do you provide then a calendar or an amortization so that the contractor knows when that's going to happen?
I don't know.
No. Okay. All right. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Okay, I think that at this point we have asked our questions, and so the members will deliberate. It's possible we'll have another question or two, but we may also just resolve as to what we're going to do with the matter. I do appreciate that you brought people here who are very capable to answer our questions, and we don't always have that. So I just want to note that on the record. That's extremely helpful and somewhat rare. Thank you.
I apologize that we weren't able to answer the questions about the specific contract questions, but I can assure you that we did do a diligent search, and the contracts team was involved in that search when we did it, and this is all the records we could provide.
Great, thank you. Okay, Member Wolf, Member Stein, what should we do with this? It seems like we do have a significant question about is this the kind of case where it's basically, is this requesting that new documentation be created out of existing data, which may require analysis, but will require some other kind of work? Or did they basically produce all the records that were requested? I will note again that we don't make any final decisions here. So what we will in all likelihood do is advance this on to the task force so that everyone can look at it and make a decision as to whether we feel there's a violation. But I do think we also we'll probably agree here that we have jurisdiction, and these either are or would be public records. So members, anything else you think we should put into a motion?
This is Member Stein. I'm a bit torn here because I feel like we've seen that there are a lot of city agencies that don't do this kind of record keeping. Having a separate line item for cost of doing business, or CPI increases, and so I really feel like there are no records for us to review, and therefore I would argue even while these might, if were they to exist, they would be public records under our jurisdiction. Because there are no records, I believe, then I don't know that we really have jurisdiction over some specific set of documents that we need to bring before the full task force for a hearing. So I feel like the mechanism we have right now is to consider a consent calendar, perhaps, with a recommendation of no violation because the records don't exist. I guess we're going to go to the full task force, but I feel like I'm very convinced that there are no records here.
Except for the one little wording in there about no jurisdiction, I'm in agreement on that. I don't think it makes it a non-jurisdiction case.
No, it's more fundamental, I think. There just are no records.
I think
so
that,
therefore, what do we?
Yeah, I think that there's no indication that there are any records that were denied Mr. Kramer here that would constitute a violation. And I think that's what I'm seeing also.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So I'm a little unclear as to how, when, and who makes the decisions of when the increases happen. Whether it's at the division level or whether it is at the upper management level, or in the departments that the respondents here represent. And that there are, basically no records tracking when the increases happen, or that there are no notices to the contracts holders as to when that's going to happen, or if it's going to happen, and at what rate it's going to happen. It just seems odd to me. Even a landlord has to do that to their tenants every year when there's going to be a mandated increase in rent. So it seems a little odd to me that there's no communication with the contractor, and that there's no internal necessarily tracking of what the adjustment is going to be. Somebody has to tell somebody that the CPI is this much, and then it's got to go to, accounts payable, who's going to write the check, and there's got to be some checks and balances somewhere. So in my questioning, I didn't hear that there was any of that. I heard there is this spreadsheet and that somebody can sit down and calculate it, but calculating it and analyzing it means that somebody had to create the formulas ahead of time in order to put it into the spreadsheet. And so that's what's unclear to me. I do find that we have jurisdiction on this. I do find that there is possibly some records that are missing, or not necessarily records, but maybe information that's missing. Sunshine Ordinance covers not just records, but information. And I'm perplexed. I would, if I was the controller or an auditor, I would be, confused and concerned that nobody has an answer as to how they came up, where the records were as to when the adjustments were made, and whether there was any tracking for it on a contract by contract basis. I'll stop there.
Okay. I certainly am in agreement with you that there are some questions that are raised here. Yes. I guess my own feeling is that that's beyond really what we're doing here, in terms of the Sunshine Ordinance and the state law. I just don't. I think that it feels like it gets into much more questioning how they're doing business over there, and that certainly not what we do.
Well, I mean, I guess my confusion on that is then, you know, how do these adjustments happen in general? I mean, does somebody? That's what I'm asking, is who makes the decision, and do they do it on paper? And if they do it on paper, where's that paper? You know, I mean, I think that is worthy of an answer. Just because they say they don't have any records, I'm not quite sure understand how the numbers get land up on a page, and when there are adjustments made, how those adjustments get made. And I think that's the crux of the question here. It's not how they do business, but are there tracking sheets for this, and how do they track that from year to year? And I think that's the answer that the petitioner, Mr. Kramer, is asking for. And so I think it's worthy of some investigation to discover if there are any findings there. I'm not asking that we do that here, but I'm stating that that's something that the task force might want to look into.
Can I just add something real quickly?
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
The original request was for the cost of living adjustment and the cost of doing business. But when it moved to the CPI information, the request was always for dollar amounts, and the spreadsheet contains dollar amounts. And we went above and beyond and provided the 2022 rates when we responded to the complaint. And before that, we had provided the historical rates as well. So all the information we have has been provided, and the request was for dollar amounts. We provided the rates, the increased rates as well.
Thank you. I'm amenable to what Member Stein has said, and yet also in deference to what Member Wolf has said about his questions about this. We could make a recommendation to the full task force, but I'm going to say that because both Member Stein and I think, are in agreement as to whether we see a violation here. But I'm going to move that this matter be heard before the full task force, that we do conclude that public records are involved, that we do have jurisdiction, but that we do not at this time make a recommendation to the full task force. But we do move the matter so that it can be heard before the full task force.
No recommendation for violation before the task force?
No recommendation one way or another.
Okay, no violation.
Yeah, if that's your motion, I'll second that.
Okay. So when we're ready, we can have public comment on that.
Yes, if there are any members of the public who would like to make public comment at this time, you can approach the podium. If you're on the telephone or otherwise with us via teleconference, you can press *3 to raise your hand if you're on the telephone, or if you're using the application, you can use the application to raise your hand. I'll give everyone a few moments if they want to indicate public comment. I'm seeing no indications for public comment on our telephone lines, teleconference lines.
Thank you, Victor. We can vote.
Member Schmidt?
Aye.
Sorry, Chair Schmidt. Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Member Stein?
Second that motion? Just want to make sure. Okay.
You're seconded.
Okay, nay.
Member Stein, no. 2 in favor.
Good enough. All right. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Kramer, also. Good vote.
Thank you.
Should we go to general public
Yeah.
comment?
General public comment, if there is any.
Item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda.
Sorry, I was muted after I said all that. Does anybody like to make public comment? You can approach the podium or raise your hand via the application or press *3 if you're using the telephone line.
*2 or *3?
*3.
Okay.
I'm seeing no indications for public comment at this time.
Shall we move on to item number 4, Chair Schmidt?
Yes, please.
Item number 4, file number 21009, complaint filed by Anonymous against Hank Heckel, Mayor London Breed, and the Office of the Mayor for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721K and the California Public Records Act 6254.21 by issuing an illegal written demand for the mayor's phone number in a public record, by making an illegal written demand to not disclose the mayor's telephone number, by failing to include a statement describing a threat or fear for the safety of the mayor or any person residing at the mayor's home address, and by failing to designate in writing an agent authorized by the mayor to make a written demand pursuant to 6254.21.
First question. Do we have Anonymous here, either in the courtroom or online?
If you are with us on the telephone line, if you can press *3 to raise your hand, it would be appreciated. I'm not seeing indications of a hand raised at this time.
So it looks like we have no petitioner here.
Anonymous was timely noticed of this hearing.
All right. Cheryl, is this Anonymous the same Anonymous, I assume, as the next case?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And it is also the same Anonymous who had dismissed many cases recently.
Yes, he dismissed 55 cases. I have written him to see if there are further cases that he would like to dismiss,
Okay,
but I have not heard from him either about this hearing or that decision.
okay. All right. Um, at this point, members, should we should we do the standard procedure, and I think it's called table the matter, or Cheryl, what do we call this again?
We can table the matter, and tomorrow morning I can notify the petitioner and CC the respondent
Yeah.
that their case was called, that they didn't make an appearance, and by complaint procedure 7B, I think it is, we inform him that we will close the complaint. He has 60 days to respond unless we hear from him.
Okay. Any members, any ideas other than to just do what Cheryl's described?
Just as a matter of order, if we table the matter under Robert's rules, it usually means that it's more or less dead after the meeting's over. Is that the intention? To dismiss it?
It seems like that might be an appropriate thing to do here, but if somebody has a different idea, I'm open to it. It certainly we're not going to have a hearing here today if Anonymous is here today. It seems to me. What would you like to do, Member Wolf? Do you have any other ideas?
We usually have more or less a standard way to close a file, and that I would suggest that we do it that way and make that recommendation to the task force.
And how is that different
I don't
than
remember the
table?
exact verbiage. Mr. Young, do you remember the exact verbiage? That we
Yes, I
used?
believe Cheryl got the general concept, but before we do that, I had one more caller who just called in. I was wondering if you are anonymous for item 4 or 5. If you can press *3 to raise your hand. Okay, we do have a hand raised. Maybe Anonymous is with us now. I have
This is
unmuted
not
you. Are you anonymous for item 4 and 5?
This is not anonymous. This is Laura Lynch calling in for item 6 from the planning department.
Okay, I will so note that, and I will unmute you again once we get to that item. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'm going to move for the language from Ms. Leger and Mr. Young that we table this matter.
Yes, I believe the motion would be to table the matter and to inform both parties of the tabling, and to allow them a certain amount of time to request that it be reopened if there was an issue.
Yeah, that's fine. That's good. That's my motion.
That's fine. I was under the impression there was some other type of language that we use for closing a file, but okay, I'm good with that. Thank you, Ms. Leger, and thank you, Mr. Young.
Member Wolf, did you want to be the second on this motion?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay.
Oh, my apologies. It's my turn. If there's anyone who would like to make public comment on the tabling of item number 4, you can raise your hand at this time or approach the podium. You can press *3 to raise your hand or use the application to raise your hand. I'm seeing no indications for public comment on item number 4 at this time.
So we'll have our vote.
Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Moved by Chair Schmidt, seconded by Member Wolf, that to table the matter and inform the parties of the tabling and allow a certain amount of time to reopen the motion, to reopen the case.
Okay. Thank you. Looks like Mr. Heckle's here, and looks like you're You're not on for that one. Okay, there's another matter involving anonymous. The next line, Cheryl, could you call that one?
Item number 5, file number 21017, complaint filed by Anonymous against Dennis Herrera and the Office of the City Attorney for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721D as in dog by failing as a supervisor of records to inform the petitioner as soon as possible and within 10 days of its determinations whether the record requested is public.
Okay, is the complainant, the petitioner, anonymous, present for this matter?
I have no additional logins from the teleconference line, but if you are anonymous and you are present with us today, you can go ahead and press *3 to raise your hand. I'm seeing no indication at this time.
Okay. I'll make the same motion as on the last case. We table the matter with the same timing afterward.
I'll second it. This is Member Stein.
Okay, if there's anybody who'd like to make public comment on that motion, you can raise your hand at this time or approach the podium. I'll give everyone a few moments.
Ms. Quart, are you here for this particular issue? Yeah, we should make a note of that in the record that she is present. That is Jen Quart from the City Attorney's Office.
Oh, hello, Ms. Quart.
Okay, I see no indications for public comment on this matter. I believe we can close public comment. I think we can close public comment and take the vote.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
have a vote.
ready for a vote, yes. Chair Schmidt.
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Stein.
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Member Wolf.
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for appearing.
Thank you.
Are we ready for the next item?
Yes.
Okay.
Next line.
Item number 6, file number 23007, complaint filed by Pick Van Cleef against the Planning Department for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6, it should be 67.7C. Is that correct, Mr. Van Cleef?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. For failing to properly notice a public notice for failure to inform the residents of the proposal, the length of time planned for the activity, and the effect of the proposal or activity, and by failing to state that persons who are unable to attend the public meetings or hearing may submit to the city by the time the proceeding begins written comments regarding the subject of the meeting or hearing, that these comments will be made a part of the official public record.
Okay, it looks like the petitioner is here in the room, ready to go. And I'll ask if there's somebody on behalf of the respondent.
Yes, Laura Lynch from the Planning Department.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so same procedure, up to 3 minutes, first from the petitioner when Cheryl's ready, and then followed by the respondent.
You ready, sir?
Well, I understand Mr. Young was going to be able to.
He's online.
Oh, okay. So if he
Did
could.
you send him your documents?
I did. I sent it, but I don't know that he received it. I didn't get verification.
Mr. Young, we have the petitioner at the podium, and he wanted to make sure that.
I'm double checking right now. Give me one moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ledger. Shall I refer to everybody as members?
Yes, it's Chair Schmidt. And
That's
Member
fine.
Stein, and online is Member Wolf.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
Okay, I do have your email, but there's no attachments to it.
Okay.
Was it part of the packet that you submitted earlier, or is this a new document?
I've submitted it, I believe, twice today. And I've submitted it
Let me check
last
to
week
see
as
if you have
well.
an additional email.
I'll ask Mr. Van Cleef before we hear his formal statement. What's the nature of the documents that you're talking about that you submitted today?
It's in regards to my complaint, which was a public notice that was posted at the doorway of an establishment. And I have a copy of the notice, but I also wanted the members to be able to view how it was posted to get a clear indication of exactly how it was posted.
Okay.
Is it a photograph of the notice?
I believe
That was in our packet, but
Oh, well, yes, it is a photograph.
did you have more than one photograph of a notice?
There was two. One was a close-up of the same photograph. So one's on the door, and
Yeah,
then I stepped back and I took another one so people would be able to see that there wasn't a secondary notice as well as there should have been.
Okay, I think I'm gonna look at the packet again, but there was a photograph. I don't think it was a close-up, but it's hard to say.
Okay, give me one moment.
It's a little
there
subjective.
were no attachments to the email that I received, but I am looking at the packet. Let me show it to you. And maybe this is would be good enough. Give me one moment.
Page 120 and 121.
Oh yeah, I guess it is close-up.
And then on the next page is a picture of the door.
Yeah.
Page one.
Victor,
We
you
can't
have
see that on the TV. Well, we don't need to.
I don't have control over your TV.
All right.
Well, the one copy of the notice of public hearing is in the packet already. And I can say that you will also have the opportunity to submit for any further documentation, assuming this is going to be heard before the full task force, which is 10 of us, I guess, 9 or 10 of us. But this is just a preliminary committee hearing here today. Okay. So, Cheryl, when you're ready, we can ask to hear about the case from the petitioner. And again, we've already had our chances to read through the file, so we do know the case already. Yeah. But you have 3 minutes to tell us what you wish to.
Are you
Oh.
ready, sir?
I am. Very good. Thank you so much for your time. This matter began regarding an establishment that wanted to start a cannabis marijuana dispensary in the neighborhood. And we were notified, as I am one of the residents within the neighborhood, within the notification area, within a 150 feet. There was many notices that I myself did not receive, and as I inquired with other neighbors, that was a consensus of many, many neighbors, which was a concern to me. And as I delved into the matter, I found that there was violations that transpired with the planning department, with the planning commission, and subsequently with the board of supervisors. Many of these entities, I brought these concerns to their attention and evidence, and a lot of it was simply disregarded, which was also a concern to me. So a couple of the items that I found that I believe to be violations, I brought forward here today. The ones that I believe I have 3 here today regarding the posting at the door, and well, they're all regarding the posting at the door, and it's failing to notify. I believe B was a person of whom could be contacted by the city should they not be able to be present. And the other, excuse me, the other one was the language that was used, that being cannabis, which I received a response from the planning department stating that cannabis is a regular term within the planning department. I believe my answer was something to the effect that I would acknowledge that that may be the case at the planning department, but I do not work at the planning department, and nor do many people in my neighborhood. Our neighborhood is made up effectively mostly 80% of non-English speaking people. So that's a concern of mine, that it couldn't be in a more simple term, such as marijuana, something that we can identify. And I believe it to be on the planning department a type of ruse. I believe it was intentional, and I believe that they should make an effort to rectify the matter.
Okay, thank you. Now we will have a statement from the respondent when Cheryl is ready.
Ms. Lynch, are you ready to begin?
Sure, thank you.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Laura Lynch, the Planning Department staff. As I mentioned in my response with regards to the notice that was provided for this conditional use authorization request before the Planning Commission, the term cannabis is a term that is defined within the planning code. And in addition, the Office of Cannabis is also an additional office within the city. In response to the complainant's recent presentation with regards to a staff person on contact on the notice, you will see Planner Sylvia Jimenez is noted at the bottom, along with her phone number and email contact. Additionally, at the bottom of the notice, there is a translation in various languages and a number to call if you have questions specific to this notice and would like the information interpreted into your language of choice. Lastly, I think there was a comment about if you are unable to attend the hearing, how you can provide comments. And again, that is by contacting Sylvia Jimenez for more information. Additionally, the notice mailed out to individuals and the agenda that was posted for this item for the Planning Commission identifies that individuals may contact the Commission Secretary's email address, and that's listed, and preferably by 5 p.m. the day before the hearing for comments to be made part of the official public record. And so that was on the mail notice along with the agenda posted for this item for the Planning Commission. I don't have any additional comments at this time, but I am available for questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, members, any questions for the parties?
I have a couple of questions.
You're up, Member Wolf.
Okay. For the petitioner, Mr. Van Cleef, was there a notice posted in any alternate languages other than English? I can't tell from the picture that you submitted.
So in respect to the other languages, there are other languages, but as far as I understand, the language is simply say something to the effect of for information call. It doesn't give any project information whatsoever on the notice that's posted at the door. So ostensibly, someone viewing it who speaks another language wouldn't know what any of this means, except if they were to speak that language, a sign that says for information call in their particular language. That's not particularly helpful.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just add for Member Wolf, it's on page 161 of the packet is an example of that notice.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, my next question is for the respondent, and let me just so my first question I can certainly do away with. My second question is the way that you posted it, can the alternate languages be plainly seen?
I'm looking at the same photo you are, and it does look like on the bottom of the notice, you're able to see the various languages and the phone number to call if you would like more information in any of those languages.
But is that on the cover page?
Yes, on the bottom of the cover page, in the footer. And additionally, this is on our agenda as well if you have any requests for language access. And I believe this item actually did have requests for language access and was interpreted into various languages.
So would page 159 be a reasonable facsimile of that? Or are you saying that it's a the actual piece of paper is longer so that you can see the alternate languages? Because it looks
I'm trying
like
to
that.
find
It looks
page
like on page
150.
161, and when you look at the picture that Mr. Van Cleef had shown, it looks like you can only see one page, like it's in some sort of folder.
Can you please, Victor, are you able to share your screen to show that page? I'm not seeing that page on the packet that I'm looking at. And just to make sure we're all literally on the same page, I
Give me
think
one
that
moment.
would be helpful. Thank you.
We have the picture of the door that I'm displaying at this time, and going backwards, it's a picture of the notice itself.
So it looks like that I believe the petitioner may have in the photo cut off. So if you see at the bottom, what's not displayed in this photo is the planning department contact information and the language. But if you scroll back down to the one on the door, it's hard to tell from this photo. Let me, but I believe if you look at page, my response, the attachment, you'll see the notice that was sent to the neighborhood. That cover page is what the poster entails.
So that would be on page 159, printed 159.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I see that it says at the bottom, for more information, please contact planning department in English. And then in the
Below
footer,
that, do you see the Chinese characters in
Okay.
Spanish and Tagalog or
Okay.
Filipino?
and it's a different phone number.
Yes, it's a language access specific phone number that the department has and monitors.
All right, thank you.
So, oh, I do have questions.
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah, so just to follow up on this, so if this is the notice that's posted and say you only read Mandarin or you only understand Spanish, how would you know here what this hearing is about? To want to get more information on it.
That information at the bottom, which is explaining to call.
No, I mean, but how would you know the
language.
topic? How would you know the topic of the conditional use? I mean, how would you know? And you would just see a posted notice and just what would give you any indication of what the notice is referencing?
I think all I can say is that there is information provided there on how to contact the planning department to get more information on the subject matter in the various languages, and this is in accordance with the language access ordinance. So the city is in compliance with the language access ordinance and providing options for individuals to contact the department to provide additional information in those languages.
Yeah, I have not read the language access ordinance, but it does make me wonder why somebody would follow up when they would not even know what the topic they were following up is on. But I had another question. Hang on. Yeah, so there's, and even in that piece that we saw on page 161 where there was some information about who to contact, was there any information in those translations about what the actual, that it was referencing a hearing about, conditional use authorization, and it was referencing a hearing about cannabis? Like, was there anything that indicated the topic and the event in those translations?
It does not look like that. It looks like it is just a planning code and the address, and that a hearing may occur, and to obtain information in the various languages to call the contact number on the agenda.
Okay, and then for the petitioner, because I'm not quite sure from the picture you give, but how was the notice posted physically? Was it just like taped on all sides to the door?
It was on the interior of the unit. So as far as I know, I believe it was enclosed in a plastic sleeve, like in a binder, what you would have in a binder, and taped probably against the door this way.
Okay, so was it possible to take it out and examine?
No, not from the general public. It was not at all, because it was on the interior.
Oh, but if you did see it and could access it, I'm just trying to figure out, like, would it have been possible for somebody to read the back?
You would need a key to enter the building, which was, the building's effectively shut. It's been closed down. So you would need a key, and then be able to let yourself in. And then, theoretically, yes, you could then remove it, but how would you get the key or even know who you're supposed to contact? It's supposed to clearly state that. It doesn't clearly state who to contact.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay. Oh, yes, Member Wolf.
Yeah, just Mr. Van Cleef, looking on the picture that you took, looking on page 121.
Yes, sir.
It looks like, are you telling me that is taped to behind the glass?
That is what I'm saying, yes.
Okay. Is there some sort of how would they be able to post it behind the glass?
The people who petition, they rent that space where it was posted. That's their building. That's their unit of which they have access to. In fact, they've even actually bought the building now. But they're able to, I assume they're able to enter and exit the building they own. And I assume they have keys to their property. I don't know.
But the city doesn't have access to it into the interior, correct?
I understand that is allowed to be posted by the applicant in with respect to and in accordance to the rules of the city, and that they sign an affidavit stating that they post it as the city acknowledges they should, and that I believe they signed that affidavit on the 16th of 2022, actually a day after the hearing, which
so then let me just cut to the chase here. So if it was taped onto the inside of the window, then all the other documents that were in that folder or that container could not be accessed. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, thank you. Question, Ms. Lynch?
Mm-hmm.
Whose responsibility is it to post the notices?
So it's the responsibility of the project sponsor to post the notices. And I just would like to add that we only post that front page. We don't post the back page that the petitioner is referencing. In accordance with Planning Code Section 333 for public notification procedures, there's a list of what is required to be included on the poster. And so that information is what is provided in the 11:17 poster. The back of the notice is not included on the poster itself.
So
those are mailed to individuals within the area.
So would you say that this was
and
correct?
Posted on our, and yes, it was posted in accordance with our Planning Code Section 333, and additionally, the entire notice, including the other pages, was posted on our website.
I'm confused. You said that you post the front page on the front of the building.
I do not post. No, the poster is posted by the project sponsor. the poster is provided by the planning department. What the poster entails is provided by the planning department. The project sponsor is required for posting the notice. In addition to that, the planning department mails out a separate notice that includes that cover page that entails the poster and those other pages that are in the packet. Those are mailed out to individuals in the neighborhood and various neighborhood groups who are registered with the city. In addition, that is posted on our website as well.
And does the planning department monitor how these are getting posted so that they are in accordance to your
Yes.
guidelines and policies?
Yes, there's an affidavit that's provided to ensure that the notices are posted, and if there are any complaints, the department will follow up on that as well to ensure they're posted correctly. And if the notice is not posted correctly, then they will have to correct that matter before their hearing.
Okay, you mentioned something about an 11 by 17. Does that notice on page 121 look like 11 by 17? Is that the correct size that you're referring to?
It should. It's hard to tell by the photo that's provided, but I believe it's 11 by 17. But I would have to follow up with that to be. It's hard for me to say right now just based on that photo.
Okay, it's fine. I have no more questions, Mr. Chair.
First, I'll ask Mr. Van Cleef. Did you yourself get notice of this through the mail?
I did not personally know, and I live in the area that I should have received it.
You should have received it, but you didn't receive it.
That's correct.
Okay. Do you know of anyone who did receive mail notice that is in the area that you believe it was required that notice be given?
From knocking on doors within the 150 feet, we have only been able to find one person that says they received it. And all the other ones that who opened the door and spoke to us said they did not recall that. They didn't see it. They had no idea of it. And us bringing it to their attention, or our little group, was the first they were hearing of it.
Okay. And let's see. How did you learn about the notice? Was it that you saw it on the door there, or did someone tell you about that?
A neighborhood advocate knocked on my door, and she explained it to me she speaks primarily Cantonese, and she explained it to me, and I was kind of shocked, chagrined, and I ended up joining her campaign.
Okay. Question for Ms. Lynch. Specifically as to page 161, you said that this is part of the mailing, but it's not part of the posting. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And why is it, again, that you would include this page in the mailing? I think you were referencing a provision of code.
Yes, it's in accordance with Planning Code Section 333, and that outlines what is required to be on the posters, and that is monitored by the zoning administrator.
Okay, so that's the posting requirement, correct?
Correct, the posting requirements and the content of the notice. And I would like to separately add that the hearing that it did occur for this item at the Planning Commission, we did receive a request, I'm just verifying what I said earlier, to interpret the item into Mandarin and Cantonese, I believe, and Spanish, and that was all provided at the hearing. It was simultaneous interpretation along with consecutive. So public comment was interpreted into English as necessary, and the entire hearing was interpreted into those various languages.
Okay. And the page 161, which looks like, if this is in the mailing, it's probably the third old-fashioned page. This is included in the mailing, probably not to satisfy the posting requirement, but the language access requirement. Is that correct?
Yes, so I believe we might actually, might be additional information aside from the language access ordinance that's being provided. I can check with my colleagues on that, but I know that information is along with the footer that provides more information on who to contact is in compliance with the language access ordinance.
What would the language access ordinance, and I don't have it in front of me, what does it require to be contained in the posted documentation? I
would have to pull that up myself too, to quote the language access ordinance. I would need a few moments to pull that up.
Can you give us a citation? Although, just a minute, I'm going to hand it to Member Stein. But do you know the numbers here?
91, I believe, planning code, or yeah.
91.7.
91.7, possibly. A. Okay. Member Stein, I hand it to you.
Yeah, I mean, presuming that I'm looking at the correct thing, this is the language access ordinance passed in 2021, and 91.7A says city boards, commissions, advisory bodies, and departments shall translate meeting notices, agendas, and minutes upon written request. When a city board, city commission, and advisory body receives a written request for translated meeting minutes, the body shall translate the meeting minutes only after the body adopts them and within a reasonable time thereafter. So when I read this, I'm like a little bit unclear about whether it's saying you need to translate the notices and agendas and then minutes just upon request, or whether it's saying that all of these things would only be translated upon request. But it does seem like a big omission that you would, I mean, to me, it's just, if I was walking and I saw a notice posted in a language that I don't speak or in characters that I don't speak, and then there was something at the bottom in English saying, for more information, call this number. It just gives me no context to know whether that's something that is relevant to me. So.
Back to just, this is Chair Schmidt, to Ms. Lynch. So page 161, it sounds like that would have been in the mailing. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And do you believe that that is included in the mailing in order to satisfy the ordinance that Member Stein was just reading from?
I believe, and I don't want to be quoted because I don't work for OSEA, so okay. I'm don't want to interpret their code. Yeah. I can provide follow-up information, but I believe the footer that we provide on the notice is what is legally keeping us in compliance with the language access ordinance. And I have read that section before, and I'm actually one of the people that coordinate providing interpretive services at the various hearings, and it is upon request. Got it. So that request needs to be made, and we will provide additional translation of the notices and other items.
Thank you.
Can I ask one follow-up question for the respondent? So do you look at all when you are noticing particular neighborhoods in San Francisco at what the predominant language composition of that neighborhood is when you are considering how to notice hearings and plans?
I believe that's something that is being expanded upon. In addition, for providing language access at our commission hearings, in order to be a little bit more proactive, we are taking that into account to understand where the item is happening, to offer those services up front to see if interpretive services are required or helpful or anticipated. So I think that, we're expanding our outreach upon those different areas of the city and the demographics within those areas as well.
Okay, thank you.
Just point of information, through the chair, Member Stein, what was that code number? that you're-
91.7A
Of the planning code?
of the language access ordinance.
Oh, language access.
I have a question first to Ms.
My apologies. That'd be the administrative code.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Ms. Lynch. Do you have a copy of the certification or verification that the posting and the notice were done in compliance with the law?
I believe we have a copy of the affidavit. I can provide that to everyone.
Okay. And is that something that was already given to the petitioner here, or maybe it wasn't part of the request here?
Yeah, it wasn't part of this request, but I can provide a follow-up to include the affidavit to
Okay,
send to the chair.
Where are those affidavits kept?
They're kept on our website. They're within our M-Files file storage. So it's a digital form that's saved electronically with the department.
Okay. Yeah, if you could give a copy to us and the petitioner, I think that could be a significant document here. All right. Any more questions, members? Otherwise, we will deliberate and decide. This is you'll have a rebuttal opportunity when you have a full task force hearing.
Oh,
but
yes, sir.
today we don't need that. Yeah. We're just trying to figure out if there's, basically we might send this to the full task force. There's a good chance of that. But we may also make recommendations, et cetera, et cetera. I do think that it's clear here and that we have jurisdiction to a certain extent, at least. I'm not sure if we have jurisdiction over language access statutes, but we do have jurisdiction, at least with regard to the 67.71 claims. And these are certainly public notice requirements under our jurisdiction. Other than that, members, anything other than we send it on to the full task force?
The only thing is, are you making a motion?
Not yet. Just
Okay.
wanted to open it up.
Yeah, I would also, in any motion that we make, that we refer to the task force to refer to admin code 91, language access ordinance to review whether the posting was proper or not.
Yes. Anything you think I should, or you think we should do in addition to that, Member Stein?
Yeah, I'm looking at the public notice requirements, and I'm just kind of thrown that there does seem to be this glaring problem that if there are people who speak other languages predominantly in areas, it almost like, the language access ordinance doesn't quite speak to it. And I feel like our public notice requirements don't quite speak to it. They just talk about the materials being written in plain, easily understood English, which is problematic.
Thank you for observing that.
Yeah, it in terms of the ultimate fairness of the law on this, yeah, I think there's clear questions. Although in terms of just looking at the the wording of the statutes, the wording of the requirements here, it does look like there's a real clear limitation to the English language. And I mean, I know that neighborhood well, and I'm completely understand that just about anyone who's going to see that is not necessarily going to be able to even read English. There's people who speak many languages down there. Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be a claim under the terms of these statutes, although I do think there is still the question that you've raised about whether the use of the word cannabis is sufficient. And I'm not saying which direction I would rule on that, but that I think that's one that also that's something that the task force should look at. Okay, anyone want to?
I just want to speak to that very briefly and say I did spend some time Googling cannabis versus marijuana, and it seems like we're in a moment of transition in terms of how these items have been referred to in the past. So I think there could be some legitimate confusion there.
Yeah. Marijuana was not really the word until as I understand it, until like maybe 100 years ago. And there are various sociological and political reasons why suddenly the government started using that word instead of cannabis.
And then similar economic and social reasons for this transition now from marijuana to cannabis as the preferred term. Yeah.
Members, let's.
Yeah, I have one other thing. Was there any discussion here about making any requests about the affidavit that be presented to the task force?
I did ask, and Ms. Lynch promised to give it to both the task force and to the petitioner.
And I think the respondent also referred to Section 333 of the Planning Code for public notification procedures, that the minimum dimensions for the posted notice is 11 by 17. I'd like a real facsimile of that, because looking at what is the images does not appear to be that dimension. So I'd like to see that, because the image, not only the image that was provided by the petitioner, but the facsimile of it that's in our record provided by the respondent.
Mr. Van Cleef, was the document that was on that glass door 11 by 17?
To be perfectly honest, it appeared to be the correct size.
Okay, thank you. But Member Wolf, if we can get clearance, confirmation on that.
I would just, the respondent brought it up. So that's the only reason why I'm asking. And I'm just confirming that with the section that was cited. And then I'm looking at the evidence that was presented. And I can't make any definitive conclusions, but I'd like to see the actual, I think the task force should see the actual document. So a comparison could be made. I mean, the code is very specific. Minimum dimensions of 11 by 17. So
let's include in any determination we make here that we will require any existing evidence that indicates the actual size of the document that was on the glass door and also that we will require the parties to produce the affidavit or affidavits regarding posting and mailing of the notice on this.
Excuse me.
And one other thing, I just wanted to ask, did any of you, I didn't ask it, but did any of you ask, I may have missed it, if the notices were provided by the Planning Commission? And if so, were they like delivered as hard copies? Were they delivered as electronic copies? You know, because that could also determine how it was printed and who then has that responsibility to do it correctly. And then I think also the respondent should be prepared to answer any questions as to consequences for not providing maybe false evidence on an affidavit.
Ms. Lynch, I think you had something that you wish to add.
Oh, no, I was just, I can be prepared to provide the materials that were requested. I think there was just an initial request or question about who sends out the mailings. And I was just going to say the mailings are generally handled through the planning department. So I can provide all that information.
If you could
separately
get that information, that would be great.
Sure.
We're gonna include that in our determination today. Okay, I will move that we move this matter to the full task force for hearing because it involves public hearing information, and we have jurisdiction to a certain extent, at least, with two added requirements that the parties produce any evidence they have regarding regarding and that might indicate the actual size of the document on the door at issue, and produce any and all affidavits of posting and or mailing of the notice.
I'll second that.
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering if we might not also add some sections for the task force members to refer to. Because if we were to bring it up at the meeting during our presentation, you know, folks will be unprepared at that point.
Do you mean 91.7?
91.7, well, no, it's actually 91.7, but if you use section 333 of the planning code, public notification procedures, in D2 under content of notice, it speaks very plainly about language access and refers to chapter 91 there with a link. So it would be all inclusive at that point.
Okay. So let me just add at this end of what I had made as the motion, reference to planning code 333 and administrative code 91.7. Reference is made to.
Great, thank you.
And I'll still second that.
Just second that, Member Stein?
Yes.
Okay.
How'd that go, Cheryl?
Do you want me to read it to you?
You able to get that?
I think so.
Okay.
You want me to-
Yeah. Let's just review it.
All right. Moved by Chair Schmidt, seconded by Member Stein. to further this matter to the task force because it involves public hearing information. There is jurisdiction with two requirements that the parties produce evidence regarding information that would indicate the actual size of the document on the door and produce any and all affidavits of posting and mailing the notice and reference made to Planning Code 333 and Administrative Code 91.7.
Beautiful. All right. Let's go to public comment.
Yes, if there's anybody who would like to make public comment at this time, you can approach the podium or otherwise indicate on the application that you'd like to make public comment by raising your hand. If you're on the telephone, you can press *3. If you're using the application, you can use the application to raise your hand. I'll give everyone a few moments. I'm seeing no hands raised at this time. I believe we can close public comment.
Okay, time for a vote.
Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. 3 in favor.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Lynch. Thank you, Mr. Van Cleef. We'll be sending you notice of the next hearing.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members Wolf, Stein.
Mr. Chair, I just want to get an audio check. Is my audio fine? Too loud? Too soft?
Audio's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
5-minute break.
We're going to take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
So let's say we'll be back at 7:30.
Cheryl, can you go ahead and mute the mics in the room?
Oh, yeah.
I can't hear anything.
I believe that Cheryl has the microphones muted in the room.
Okay, we are all on. The microphones are on, Victor. We call the next item. Are we
Yes,
ready?
please.
Okay. Item number 7, file number 23008. Complaint filed by Emperor Norton's Revenge against Kathy Mulkey-Meyer and the Human Rights Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6725 by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and/or complete manner.
All right. Do we have anyone here to speak for Emperor Norton's Revenge?
If you would like to speak on this matter and you are the complainant or petitioner on this matter, you can press *3 to raise your hand at this time, or otherwise use the application to raise your hand. We do have the respondent with us today. I do not see any hands raised for the petitioner.
Okay. Let's give him a few seconds. So we have someone here on behalf of the Human Rights Commission. Got it. Okay. So we may or may not have a petitioner. And we do not have anyone, any petitioners here in the room. So unless, if it doesn't look like we have anyone here, so
I'd just like to repeat, if you're on the telephone and you are the petitioner for this matter, you can press *3 to raise your hand so that I know that you are the petitioner.
I see Kathy Mulkey
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
with a
Yes.
hand up.
Yeah, she's here on for the respondent, though. Okay, let's move on this one. I'm gonna move that we table this and follow the same procedure as with the those two anonymous matters that we heard earlier. Thank you, Ms. Meyer, for being present, but there's no petitioner, so we're not going to have a hearing today.
Okay, thank you.
And we have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Yes, if anyone would like to make public comment on this matter, you can raise your hand at this time by pressing *3 or otherwise using the application to raise your hand. I'll give everyone a few moments. Okay, I don't see any additional hands raised right now.
Okay, let's have a vote.
Chair Schmidt.
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Wolf. Member Wolf, aye. Member Stein.
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. 3 in favor of tabling the matter and following the same procedure as the 2 previous anonymous matters.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Next, we'll
Item 9.
Yeah, go ahead, Sheriff.
Item number 9, file number 23014. Complaint filed by Sarah Watson against the San Francisco Fire Department for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6725 by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and or complete manner.
All right, do we have Ms. Watson here today?
Yes, if you are a party to this item, if you can press *3 to raise your hand, it would be appreciated. I'm just going to go ahead and unmute this person. Oh, there he goes. Thank you.
Yeah, anyone here, respondent, petitioner, Sarah Watson, Fire Department. Is anyone here for this case?
John Tucker is here for the fire department.
Thank you. Okay. Sarah
There's
Watson.
nobody else on my list.
Okay. Looks like we may. Wow. All right. It's 4. Well, the first 2 made sense. Okay. Well, let's table this one. And if any of these people, they will have another chance because they'll get notice, right, Cheryl? Okay.
That is correct.
I'll move to table this one too.
I'll second that, but I also wanted to ask Cheryl, like, did you hear back from this petitioner in the noticing or no?
I didn't hear from the petitioner. I heard from
Okay.
Mr. Tucker actually this afternoon.
Okay.
Is that correct, Mr. Tucker? We spoke this afternoon.
That is correct. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi. Yeah.
All right. I second it.
Okay, if I do not believe there's any additional public comment, my last 2 callers are for the next item. But if there's anybody else who'd like to make public comment, you can raise your hand at this time. I believe we can close public comment at this time.
All right. Time to vote.
Okay. Chair Schmidt.
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Stein.
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Member Wolf.
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. 3 in favor to table this matter.
Okay.
Item number 10, file number 23016, complaint filed by Rosa. Somebody say what? Oh. Complaint filed by Rosa L. Against the Department of Emergency Management for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6725 by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and or complete manner.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I have a disclosure to make.
Yes.
So I frequently volunteer for Auxiliary Communication Services, which is a department under or program under the Department of Emergency Management, but it will not bias my decisions or my participation today.
Okay. Thank you for the disclosure and transparency. Okay. The petitioner, we have a Rosa L. listed as our petitioner. Is Rosa L. present?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. And I will ask about the respondent. Do we have someone here?
The respondent is here. They are transitioning to a telephone line at the moment, but they are here with us.
All right. So we will first hear from the petitioner for up to 3 minutes and then the respondent to follow. Tell us what you think is, most significant about your case, with in mind that we already have had the file to review and we've read it through.
Sure, thank you. So I made 2 complaints for 2 different records requests made to the Department of Emergency Management. I believe that the task force has rolled the 2 into one. The first complaint was for a request filed December 22nd of last year. And no records were produced for 4 months and no responses were made to the request. I believe some records were finally produced a few days ago after a while after that complaint. A second complaint was made. I filed the second complaint for a public records request that was made October 25th. So it's been about 6 months. And over the course of 6 months, I believe 16 records in total have been released on 2 different dates. So there was a release on February 9th, I believe, and a release on February 22nd of the exact same 16 documents. But from October 25th to February, no documents were released. And then after that, no documents have been released. So again, about 4 months for the first request with no documents, 6 months for the second request with 16 documents. I just wanted to note that my work around public records, specifically from the Department of Emergency Management, has led to dozens of news articles about how the city interacts with the homeless population in San Francisco. and contributes to the public knowledge about homeless sweeps. Sorry, I'm getting audio from someone else.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what that is, but please, yeah, we all heard that interruption. But
Okay.
if you could restart. Yeah, I mean, don't restart, but continue.
Just was stating the significance of the records in terms of contributing to public knowledge about homeless sweeps in San Francisco, as represented by dozens of news articles referencing these records, as well as a lawsuit over violating homeless people's constitutional rights. So delays and refusal to release documents around this issue has a real impact on the public knowledge of these issues. That's all that I have at the moment. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you. We may have questions, but let's hear from the respondent first. And when Cheryl's ready, you've got up to 3 minutes.
Mr. Lim, are you here with us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Victor Lim from the San Francisco Department of Emergency Management.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Up to 3 minutes, please.
We take responsibility for failing to respond in a timely manner, and we apologize for the delay. We do not contest that we have been untimely about this. As a matter of fact, we're unfortunately short-staffed with this, but we appreciate the requesters' multiple follow-up on this. Several things on this case, because of the scope of the responsive records and because there is an active lawsuit against the city pertaining the subject of homelessness right now. With the particular type of requests, including from Anonymous and from the requester here, we've had to have an additional policy of reviewing it with the city attorney's office, and that the city attorney needs to do a meticulous review of each item before we can release it to the requester. Most recently, we did produce a bunch of documents. Unfortunately, we are not complete yet in providing all the responsive records for this request. And unfortunately, because I myself am also moving on to a different department, and my last day was technically last Friday, I've asked that my superiors at the Department of Emergency Management continue reviewing the remaining documents that we've now secured, and that they will go through the process with the city attorney for the proper review and then the release to the requester. And that is all I have at this moment for the case. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Members, questions for the parties? Member Stein.
Yes, I have a couple questions. For the petitioner, you said you made 2 requests. Were these the same requests, essentially? Were you requesting the same information?
No, the requests contained different dates and slightly different scopes.
Okay. And then I had a question for the respondent. Can you tell us approximately how many records were identified and the nature of those records?
Yeah, we have identified for the 2 different requests. First of all, just to explain, for the first request that came in October, we had a staffing shortage. I was actually on paternity leave and was being covered by other staff. The second request came in when I was back in office, but unfortunately, at the same time, given that I'm the only person responding on behalf of the department, we've also been pulled in to respond to the several and multiple storm activations for the Emergency Operations Center, similar to the operations for COVID response. So unfortunately, that's delayed our work and shifted our focus on that. But for the first response, for the one in the time frame of the 2 weeks within October, there were several dozen responsive emails from Director Mary Ellen Carroll and Sam Dodge. What complicates each of the requests is that there are a lot of attachments and other things that for the, like for example, the weekly HSOC schedules, we had to redact and make sure that certain names of individuals, of the homeless individuals or particular addresses had to be redacted. And then we have more, again, for each of the persons that the requester is asking for from Director Karen, from Sam Dodge. There are approximately, I would say, again, several dozen per person. We're talking about probably like closer to 50 per individual. But there are also attachments, and that's what complicated things. And we're fortunate to almost give the majority of Director Carroll's documents already, actually all of it. And now we're finalizing and finishing up reviewing all the responsive records from Mr. Sam Dodge in the department.
And do you have any update on when you expect to be able to release those?
I would check in with the leadership that's still at DEM. Our Chief of Staff, Francis Zamora, will take over moving forward. I'm hoping that they can give the majority of this by early May, if not sooner.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, Member Wolf?
Yeah, I have one question for the respondent, Mr. Lim. What's your title, Mr. Lim?
Formerly the custodian of records and also the external affairs manager with the San Francisco Department of Emergency Management until last Friday.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you for your service on that. Did I hear you correctly that you testified that all records are not disclosable referring to homeless people because of lawsuits?
No, that's it. Sorry, I may have misstated. There are particular names of individuals, you know, for like, for example, public safety, privacy concerns. So sometimes there are, in the notes of the HSOC response work, they will have the full name of the person that may need services, or they have an alias that they use in the community. And to protect them, for example, if they're known as John Doe or something else like I'm making this up, like the computer user, which is an alias, even though it's not a real name, we still have to redact that just for privacy issues. But the majority of the entire document, 99%, is released.
Okay, but you are making active redactions, and the city attorney is doing that?
Yes,
Okay.
And what the requester has requested also has key terms and words that involve emails that have attorney-client privilege, and so those had to be withheld or partially redacted. And in each of the cases, when we do that in the redactions, we do indicate on the response email, which I believe the person here on the second request is on the Muckrock platform. We just sent a bunch of emails back to the Muckrock request outlet, and we CC'd the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force email. And for Cheryl, for the record, Cheryl, you were asking me in the email last time, that is actually for this complaint. And I apologize, I could not respond earlier. Thank you.
Thank you. No more questions.
Oh, I have one more, just quick question for Mr. Lim. Do you know who is taking over the custodian duties at the DEM?
For now, in the interim, it will go back again to our Chief of Staff, Mr. Francis Zamora. But they are also in the works of hiring new press officers right now, which part of the responsibilities include serving as the custodian of records. But it is unfortunately a split task amongst the staff. Or I should say, when I was there, it was one of my duties. It was not a full-time job. I do other things also. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
I have no questions for the witnesses here. So unless there are other questions, we may be ready to decide whether to move this forward. Certainly, it sounds like it's slow. There's been it's not contested that there's delay, and so we certainly will be including a notation at least about timeliness. Yet we do hope that emergency management can produce all this soon. Okay, members, a motion. Any thoughts?
Oh, just a thought. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. No, you go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay, well, I was just going to say, because there's no contesting of the fact that it's taken a long time to respond, I would say I think this is a good candidate for the consent calendar and recommending a finding of a failure to respond to a request in a timely manner. My only concern going forward is, what we can do to obtain the rest of the records as quickly as possible for the petitioner.
I would support that, and maybe the recommendation would be that it be referred to compliance and amendments for monitoring.
Okay, yeah, I would then recommend that we also refer it to compliance and amendment for follow-up with whoever is currently serving as the custodian of records, so that it doesn't fall between the cracks.
Is this a motion?
It's added to my motion.
Okay, so
Send it to go ahead.
I just want to make sure I got it right. Records of public, there is jurisdiction, forward to the task force, recommended for the consent agenda.
No, forward to the SOTF consent calendar.
Yeah.
With a recommendation that they find a failure to respond to a request in a timely and complete manner, but to also refer it to the Compliance and Amendment Committee for follow-up with whoever is now serving as the custodian of records at the Department of Emergency Management to obtain the remaining records.
Okay, that's a lot. We're going to see.
I'll second that.
All right. That was a lot of information, Laura. Are you willing to do that again?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Move that the records of public, there is jurisdiction, forward to the task force with a recommendation that they failed to respond in a timely and complete manner, and then refer to the Compliance and Amendments Committee with follow-up.
Okay, let me start at the beginning.
Okay.
So to refer it or to put it on the SOTF consent calendar. With a recommendation to find that there's a failure to respond to the request in a timely and complete manner. So I guess that's a 67.21 violation, if I'm remembering it correctly. And to also refer it to compliance and amendments. To follow up with the acting custodian of records of the Department of Emergency Management on obtaining the remaining records.
Got it.
Okay, just moving on to public comment. I don't think there's anybody else with us.
Can I make a comment?
I'll allow it.
Thank you. I just wanted to note that as somebody who makes records requests to the city regularly, the Department of Public Works responds relatively quickly to requests that are basically of the exact same nature, almost exactly the same as that sent to DEM. And the Department of Public Works is also being sued in the same lawsuit as DEM. So to me, this is clearly an issue of staffing and or willful obstruction. I don't know which, but I just wanted to note that because this issue is not the same for all agencies. And I would also like to encourage the Department of Emergency Management to meditate on the idea that if it does not want the burden of a lawsuit interfering with its ability to release public records documents, that it simply stop violating the constitutional rights of homeless people, which would free up their time to respond to these requests. Thank you.
Okay. I'll just note that there was an admitted delay violation even before we have our vote. There was an admitted delay, but even by the motion that we have here today, that does not clear the Department of Emergency Management from further obligation to fully produce, nor does it prevent the possibility that we would make a finding of willful violation down the road. Those have not been precluded. So just to clarify. Okay, I think we're about to vote. Is that right?
Public comment.
Oh, public
I don't think there's anybody else with us, so I'll just give them a chance. If there's anybody who'd like to make public comment, you can raise your hand at this time. Okay, I think we can close public comment.
Member Stein.
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Chair Schmidt.
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Wolf.
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Moved by Member Stein, seconded by Chair Schmidt, that the records are public, there is jurisdiction, and forward to the task force and put on the task force consent calendar with a recommendation to find that there is a failure to respond in a timely and a complete manner, and also refer the matter to compliance and amendments to follow up with the acting custodian of records of the Department of Emergency Management on obtaining the remaining records. We good?
I think we're good. Yeah.
All right.
Guess we'll do number 11 now.
Item number 11, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items by members of the complaint committee.
I'll just note the same announcement that I will miss the next two meetings. But I'm sure that'll cut down on the
Complaint committee meets.
consumption of
that's one
time.
meeting, right?
And one task force meeting, so you can be efficient while I'm gone. Okay, that's the only announcement I have. Anything else, members?
I'm just curious if Member Wolf will definitely be at the next two meetings or is planning to be at the next two meetings.
I plan to, unless there is an appointment to replace.
Okay, just checking.
And we can pull the other members to see if we can find an alternate member, but that's a little bit more difficult with our lower number of members. And I was just wondering, Chair Schmidt, if we should work with somebody else for the draft agendas, or if you will still be around to help us out with that.
At least with the next one, you can definitely contact me. I think I'm leaving like that the day of that May hearing, and then with the next one after that, I think I'll probably. Well, actually, I'll probably be in contact. You can probably reach me. I just can't be here physically at City Hall, but I'll be able to be on the internet, even though I'll be overseas.
So you're going to miss one task force meeting. That'll be in June.
I'll miss committee in May, task force at the start of June, and then committee in June. Yeah, I'd probably do them if we're still remote, but got to be here now. At least some of us do.
Any more other announcements by members of the committee?
Okay, let's call number 12.
Item number 12, adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Do we have to second it?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. 8:09, does that sound right to you
Yep.
guys?
8:09.
Thank you, Bruce.